Welcome to Does It Matter by Brainy Ballers, where we dissect the game with cutting-edge analytics to give you the upper hand. We analyze everything from hand sizes to average depth of targets to uncover hidden trends that no one else sees. Say goodbye to guesswork and hello to data-driven domination. Because here at Brainy Ballers, we don't just watch the game, we understand it. So get ready, it's podcast time.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling something really specific from the NFL Combine data. We're asking, can just one measurement, a tight end's arm length, actually predict fantasy football success for PPR leagues? Our mission here is to see if that really holds a key.
Yeah, and to do that properly, we needed a pretty wide scope. We looked at the top 50 PPR fantasy finishers at tight end every single season since 2003. And crucially, we compared the very top, the top 10 guys, against the ones really struggling, those finishing, say, 41st down to 50th, just to get a clear contrast.
All right, let's unpack this then. So when you first just looked at the simple averages, did longer arms pop out for the top guys?
Well, surprisingly, no, not immediately. The initial broad averages, they were actually kind of counterintuitive. We didn't see that direct linear link right away.
How misleading was it?
Well, get this. In 12 of the 21 seasons we looked at, that's like 57% of the time, the top 5 overall fantasy guys actually had a lower average arm length than the players way down in the 31st to 50th range.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. So if arm length was this huge factor across the board, it wouldn't happen. It told us the simple average wasn't reliable. We needed something else.
Right, you had to find maybe a minimum threshold or something. Filter out that noise.
Exactly. We had to establish a threshold that actually flags consistency. And after running the numbers different ways, the optimal cutoff, the most efficient range, seems to be...
Do you want to start dominating your drafts? At BrainyBallers.com, we've researched every metric under the sun for you to find which ones are best linked to fantasy points. You can access hundreds of metrics to sharpen your scouting abilities so you know which metrics matter and which are just noise. Stop guessing on which thresholds to look for within each metric. Big numbers can be misleading or irrelevant. Our Ultimate Athlete Blueprints reveal essential scouting metrics, their importance, and benchmarks within each metric that help predict a player's probability of being a success or bust. Elevate your scouting ability with Brainy Ballers Ultimate Athlete Blueprints today. Click the link in the description. Now back to the show.
35 inches and above.
35 inches, okay. And why do we think that specific length matters? What does that extra bit get you on the field?
It's likely about leverage and just raw catching radius. At 35 inches, you probably get a real edge in fighting off linebackers, DBs, and just a bigger window to snag the ball in traffic. And the data backed it up. Tight ends hitting that 35-inch mark or higher. They have an 11.9% higher rate of finishing in the top 10 for fantasy points compared to those bottom 10 guys.
An almost 12% bump. That's definitely interesting, especially if you're drafting. But, how much weight should we really put on just this one number? Can it stand alone?
That's the key question. We use something called the Pearson correlation coefficient to measure the strength of that relationship across everyone. And our analysis, it gave us a value of 0.078.
Okay, 0.078. For those of us not running stats models every day, what does that actually tell us?
It tells us the correlation is pretty slight. It's there, but it's weak. See, in these kinds of studies, especially with top athletes, you usually want to see something above, say, 0.1 to call it really significant on its own. 0.078 means, yeah, arm length has some relevance, but it's very slight. Just for context, we compared this TE data against QB draft capital, usually a strong predictor, right? That gave a negative 0.219 Pearson value.
The stronger inverse relationship there.
Exactly. Stronger inverse relationship there than the positive one we found here. Arm length just isn't a standalone predictor, not strong enough.
And here's where it gets really interesting, thinking about the future of the position. Is that 35-inch advantage holding steady over time, or are things changing?
Things are definitely changing. We're seeing a decrease, actually. When we looked at it decade by decade, the statistical significance of that 35-inch mark, it's been going down in the most recent decade.
Huh. Why do you think that is?
Well, it's likely tied to how the position itself is evolving, the league's shifting, less focus on maybe the pure traditional blocking types and more towards those athletic move tight ends. Guys whose success is more about route running and agility than just pure reach.
Right. That really puts it all together. So arm length, absolutely should not be your main focus when evaluating these guys. It's only really useful if it's part of a much bigger picture, right? Supporting a model that looks at athleticism, scheme fit, actual skill.
Exactly. It's a piece of the puzzle, maybe, but definitely not the whole puzzle. So here's something to think about then. If the power of these fixed physical things, like arm length, is going down over time, what's replacing it? What about the non-physical stuff? Maybe variables like how quickly a guy gets off the line, route running efficiency, how well they fit a specific offensive scheme, things that rely more on technique than just pure size. Could those be the next must-have benchmarks we should be looking for when scouting the truly elite fantasy tight ends? Something for you to chew on until our next deep dive.